I had been with Sophia for 3 years, working extra shifts at my engineering firm to save for our future together. We had built what I thought was a solid relationship, planning for marriage and a family down the road. When her mother invited us for dinner at their house, I was nervous but excited. Then came the moment that changed everything. Her mother looked me straight in the eyes and said I was not husband material for her daughter. The shock froze me, but what broke my heart was Sophia laughing and saying, "I know." In that moment my world collapsed and I knew nothing would ever be the same. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button if you have ever had someone you trusted stab you in the back. I met Sophia at my college friend Jake's birthday party 3 years ago. She was stunning with her auburn hair and quick laugh that made everyone around her smile. I was immediately drawn to her confidence and the way she could command attention in any room. That night we talked until the party ended, exchanging numbers before reluctantly saying goodbye. The next day, I texted her, and to my surprise, she suggested meeting for coffee that afternoon. Our connection was instant and powerful. Sophia was studying for her MBA while I had just started my career as a civil engineer at a mid-sized firm. We came from different backgrounds. I grew up in a blue-collar family where my dad worked construction and my mom was a teacher. Sophia was raised in the affluent part of town with a father who owned several car dealerships and a mother who was heavily involved in local charity organizations. Despite our differences, we fell hard for each other. Our first date turned into a weekend of exploring the city, finding hidden coffee shops and talking about everything from our childhood dreams to our favorite movies. By the end of that weekend, I knew Sophia was special. The first year of our relationship was like something out of a movie. We went on spontaneous road trips, had romantic dinners, and spent countless nights staying up, talking about our hopes for the future. I loved how ambitious Sophia was. She had plans to revolutionize marketing strategies for luxury brands, and her passion was contagious. I supported her through late-night study sessions, bringing her coffee and snacks while she prepared for exams. When Sophia came down with severe pneumonia during her final semester, I took 2 weeks off work to care for her. I cooked her meals, picked up her medications, and even took detailed notes from her professors so she would not fall behind. Her recovery was slow, but I never left her side. I remember her looking up at me one night, her face still pale from illness, and saying, "You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Harvey." I believed her. After dating for just over a year, we decided to move in together. I found us a nice 2-bedroom apartment closer to her graduate school. It stretched my budget, but I wanted Sophia to be happy and comfortable. I took on the majority of our expenses, so she could focus on finishing her degree. I did not mind the extra hours at work, or passing up on guys' nights out to save money. Every sacrifice felt worth it because I was building a future with the woman I loved. Early in our relationship, I made efforts to connect with Sophia's family. Her younger sister Lily and I got along great. We shared a love of the same obscure indie bands, and she often texted me for advice about her own relationships. Her father was more reserved, but always treated me with respect. He appreciated my work ethic and often asked thoughtful questions about my projects at the engineering firm. Her mother, Patricia, however, was a different story. From our first meeting, I sensed her disapproval. She would ask pointed questions about my salary potential and family background during holiday dinners. When I mentioned growing up in an apartment rather than a house, her smile tightened. She would make comments like, "It is so wonderful how Sophia has helped you elevate your taste in wine," or "Perhaps Harvey can afford to take you to Europe after a few promotions, darling." Looking back, I realize I missed many warning signs about Sophia, too. She would regularly make comments about her friends dating doctors and investment bankers. When I would point out that civil engineering was a stable, respectable profession, she would quickly agree but add, "Of course, but imagine what we could do if you were pulling in doctor money." Whenever I brought up marriage, Sophia would change the subject or say we needed to be more financially secure first. I took this as a sign that she was practical, not realizing she was waiting for something better to come along. If I suggested looking at engagement rings just to get an idea of her taste, she would say, "Maybe next year when you get that promotion." At dinner parties with her MBA classmates, I noticed how she would slightly downplay my career. I once overheard her tell a friend Harvey is in engineering. Not the exciting kind with robotics, just buildings and bridges. Each comment stung, but I buried those feelings because I loved her. Despite these red flags, I remained committed to our relationship. I believed we were building something meaningful together. I pictured us married with children growing old side by side. When her mother called to invite us to a special family dinner to discuss the future, I thought maybe they were finally warming up to me. I could not have been more wrong. The week before the dinner, Sophia seemed unusually interested in my career plans. She asked detailed questions about my firm's promotion timeline and whether I had considered applying to higher-paying companies. At the time, I thought she was just showing interest in my professional life. Now I understand she was gathering information for her parents. I wanted to make a good impression at this dinner. I spent $300 I had been saving for Sophia's birthday on a new suit. I got a haircut, bought an expensive bottle of wine as a gift, and even practiced potential conversation topics with my friend Mark. I rehearsed answers to questions about my 5-year plan and our relationship goals. I was nervous but excited for what I thought might be the beginning of their acceptance. The evening of the dinner, Sophia was oddly distant. She critiqued my choice of tie and suggested I wear the watch her parents had given me for Christmas instead of my everyday one. In the car, she gave me last-minute advice. Do not talk about politics. Avoid mentioning my brother's divorce, and maybe downplay how much time you spend playing basketball with your friends. It felt like she was prepping me for a job interview rather than a family dinner. When we arrived at her parents' sprawling colonial-style home, Patricia greeted Sophia with warm hugs and me with a stiff nod. The house was immaculate, as always, with fresh flower arrangements and the soft sound of classical music playing in the background. Family photos lined the hallway, none of which included me despite our 3 years together. Patricia directed us to the formal dining room, where the table was set with fine china and crystal glasses. The conversation during appetizers was tense but civil. Her father, William, asked about my current projects at work, and I enthusiastically described the new community center our firm was designing. Patricia cut me off mid-sentence to ask Sophia about her former classmate who had just been hired by a prestigious marketing firm in New York. As the evening progressed, I noticed how differently Sophia behaved around her family. The warm, affectionate woman I knew transformed into someone more calculated and status-conscious. She laughed too loudly at her mother's subtle digs about my apartment building and agreed too quickly when Patricia suggested she needed to vacation somewhere exotic rather than the beach trip we had been planning. By the time the main course was served, my stomach was in knots. Patricia kept steering the conversation toward material wealth. She detailed their recent Mediterranean cruise and the vacation property they were considering in Aspen. Then she asked pointed questions about my student loans and retirement savings. With each question, I felt smaller. Lily tried to help by changing the subject to the volunteer work I did with Habitat for Humanity, but Patricia dismissed it as a nice hobby. The subtle digs continued through dessert. Patricia compared me unfavorably to Sophia's ex-boyfriend, a surgical resident from a wealthy family. She reminisced about their trip to Paris together and how he was now the youngest surgeon on staff at Boston Memorial. Then came the moment that would change everything. While coffee was being served, Patricia set down her cup and looked directly at me. "Harvey," she said, "we have been observing your relationship with our daughter for some time now. William and I are concerned about Sophia's future. What exactly are your intentions? And what can you offer her in the next 5 years?" The question hung in the air. Despite feeling ambushed, I answered honestly. I told them I loved their daughter and was committed to our relationship. I explained my career trajectory, how I was in line for a project manager position that would increase my salary by 30%. I mentioned our discussions about marriage and family and how I was saving for a down payment on a house. Patricia listened with a tight smile that never reached her eyes. When I finished speaking, she exchanged a look with William before turning back to me. She took a deliberate sip of her coffee and said, "That all sounds very average, Harvey. Sophia was raised to expect exceptional." The life you are describing, the small house in the suburbs, the modest vacations, the public schools, that is not what we envision for her. You simply are not husband material for my daughter." The silence that followed was deafening. I felt as though I had been physically struck. My face burned with humiliation as I looked to Sophia, hoping she would defend me. Instead, she let out a small laugh and said those three devastating words, "I know, Mom." I will never forget the look on her face. There was no embarrassment or conflict, just casual agreement, as though they had discussed this many times. As though I was a joke they both understood. In that moment, 3 years of love and sacrifice collapsed. I excused myself from the table, my hands shaking as I placed my napkin beside my half-eaten dessert. The car ride home was excruciating. Sophia acted as though nothing significant had happened, chatting about an upcoming work event. When I finally found my voice and asked how she could humiliate me like that, she seemed genuinely confused by my reaction. "You are being too sensitive," she said. "Mom just wants the best for me. You know how she is." "But you agreed with her," I said, my voice breaking. "You said I am not husband material." Sophia sighed, as though dealing with a difficult child. "Look, Harvey, I love you, but let us be realistic. Your career has a ceiling. We have talked about this. I thought we were on the same page about my expectations." Her casual dismissal of our relationship stunned me. As she continued talking, more truth spilled out. She admitted she had been comparing our lifestyle unfavorably to her friends for months. She confessed to feeling embarrassed introducing me as just an engineer at her business school networking events. She even revealed she had kept in touch with her ex, occasionally meeting him for what she called harmless lunches. By the time we reached our apartment, I felt like I was looking at a stranger. The woman I had loved and supported for 3 years had been wearing a mask all along. That night, as Sophia slept peacefully beside me, I lay awake confronting the painful truth. I had been a placeholder, a comfortable arrangement, until something better came along. Sleep eluded me that night. Each time I closed my eyes, I saw Sophia's face as she casually agreed with her mother. "I know." 2 simple words that shattered everything I thought we had built together. As the night stretched into early morning, memories flooded back, but now I saw them through a new lens. I remembered how Sophia had convinced me to delay applying to a master's program because it would take time away from supporting her career. I thought about the promotion opportunity in another city that I declined without hesitation because Sophia said long distance would be too hard on our relationship. All the times I had worked double shifts to afford the lifestyle she wanted, coming home exhausted to find dinner parties with her friends in full swing, where I felt more like the help than her partner. The rising sun found me sitting on our balcony, a cup of cold coffee in my hands, confronting the harsh reality of my situation. I had lost myself in this relationship. In my desire to make Sophia happy, I had compromised my own dreams and self-respect. The weight of this realization was crushing. Around 7 in the morning, I heard Sophia on the phone in the kitchen. Her voice was light, almost giddy. I realized she was talking to her friend Taylor about the previous night's dinner. "You should have seen his face when Mom said it," she laughed. Complete deer in headlights. I almost felt bad for him. I could hear Taylor's voice faintly through the speaker asking a question I could not make out. No, he is fine. He got quiet in the car, but nothing serious. He will get over it. He always does. That is the thing about Harvey, he is so dependable, like a golden retriever." Her casual cruelty knocked the wind out of me. As I sat there frozen in disbelief, my phone buzzed with a text notification. Thinking it might be work, I glanced down. It was a message from an unknown number that had somehow been sent to both Sophia and me. "Thank you for last night. Can't wait to see you again. Missing your touch already." The message was signed, Alex. With shaking hands, I opened our shared tablet to check our calendar, something nagging at my memory. There it was. Sophia had a lunch scheduled with Alexander Peterson 3 days ago, her ex-boyfriend, the surgical resident. When I confronted her about the text, Sophia's face went through a series of expressions. Surprise, then anger, followed by a calculated calmness that chilled me more than any admission of guilt. "It is not what you think," she said, her voice measured. "Alex and I are just friends. We had lunch to discuss a potential networking opportunity for me, but when I asked to see her phone, she clutched it to her chest. When I pressed about the missing your touch part of the message, she deflected, accusing me of invading her privacy. She never denied it. Instead, she gathered her things for work and said we would discuss it later when I was being more reasonable. The moment the door closed behind her, something inside me shifted. This was not just about one dinner or one text message. This was about 3 years of diminishing myself to fit someone else's expectations. About loving someone who saw me as nothing more than a convenient stepping stone. I called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years. Then I sat down at our dining table and made a list of everything I needed to do. Sophia had mentioned she was going away with friends for the weekend, leaving Friday afternoon. That gave me less than 48 hours to reclaim my life and my dignity. First, I called our landlord. The apartment lease was in my name only, as Sophia had poor credit when we moved in. I explained the situation and asked about changing the locks. Since I was the sole leaseholder, and Sophia had never been added officially, he was sympathetic and agreed to have a locksmith come Friday afternoon. Next, I called Mark, my oldest friend, who had been warning me about Sophia for years. He offered his spare room without hesitation and helped me make a plan for moving the essentials. I spent the rest of the day in a productive daze systematically preparing for the most difficult decision of my life. When Sophia came home that evening, I maintained a calm facade. She seemed relieved that I was not bringing up the previous night, or the text message mistaking my quiet resolve for submission. She talked excitedly about her weekend trip to the beach with her business school friends, completely unaware that it would be the last time she would enter our apartment as a resident. The next day passed in a blur of preparations. I withdrew my portion of our joint savings account, leaving hers untouched. I gathered important documents and irreplaceable personal items. I made arrangements to temporarily store larger possessions I could not immediately move to Mark's place. By Friday morning, my plan was in motion. I waited until Sophia left for her weekend trip, kissing me goodbye, as though nothing had changed between us. An hour after she left, the locksmith arrived to change the locks. By early afternoon, I had methodically packed all of Sophia's belongings. I treated her things with care and respect, something she had not shown me. Each item was neatly folded and placed in labeled boxes. Her expensive clothes were hung in garment bags. Her jewelry and valuables were secured in their cases. I stacked everything carefully in the living room, making sure nothing was damaged or misplaced. Then I wrote her a letter. I did not rant or accuse. I simply stated facts, that I had heard her true feelings about me both at dinner and on the phone with Taylor, that I knew about her continued relationship with Alex, that I deserved someone who respected me and saw my worth. I explained that the locks had been changed, that her belongings were packed, and that she could arrange a time to collect them. I ended by wishing her well, but making it clear that our relationship was over. I placed the letter on top of her boxes, took one last look around the apartment that had been our home, and closed the door on that chapter of my life. The weight that lifted from my shoulders was immediate and profound. For the first time in months, maybe years, I took a full breath. That night at Mark's apartment, I slept soundly for 8 straight hours. When I woke up, I had 37 missed calls and over 50 text messages from Sophia. They ranged from confusion to anger to pleading. I read each one but responded to none. This was not a negotiation. Sunday afternoon, my phone rang with a call from Lily, Sophia's sister. Unlike Sophia and her mother, Lily had always been genuine and kind. "Harvey, she is freaking out," Lily said. "She came home early from her trip and cannot get into the apartment. Mom is with her and they are talking about calling the police." I calmly explained that, as the sole person on the lease, I had broken no laws. I had not disposed of or damaged any of Sophia's property. I had simply ended the relationship and secured my home. "I will meet her at the apartment at 6 tonight so she can collect her things," I told Lily. "She can bring whoever she needs to help, but I would prefer if her mother did not come." When 6 o'clock came, I arrived at the apartment to find Sophia and her father waiting. Her eyes were red and puffy, her usually perfect appearance disheveled. William looked uncomfortable but nodded respectfully when he saw me. I unlocked the door and stepped back, allowing them space to enter. "Harvey, please," Sophia began, her voice breaking. "This is crazy. We can work this out. I love you." I had rehearsed this moment in my mind, preparing for the pull of familiar emotions, the temptation to believe her. But standing there, looking at her tear-stained face, I felt only clarity. "No, Sophia," I said quietly. "You do not love me. You love what I provide. Stability, comfort, convenience. But that is not enough for either of us. You deserve someone who meets your and your mother's standards for husband material. And I deserve someone who is proud to be with me exactly as I am." Her father began loading boxes into their car while Sophia continued to plead. She promised to change, to stand up to her mother, to be better. But with each promise I heard the echo of, "I know from that dinner table." Some betrayals cut too deep to heal. When the last of her belongings had been loaded, William approached me. "Man to man, I think you are making a mistake," he said. "But I respect how you have handled this. With dignity." His words surprised me, but I simply nodded. As they drove away, Sophia watching me through the rear window, I felt the first real stirrings of freedom. This ending was also a beginning. The weeks that followed were not easy. Sophia escalated her attempts to win me back. She sent daily flower deliveries to my office, until my boss asked me to have them stopped. She enlisted mutual friends to plead her case, many of whom were surprised to hear my side of the story. She created social media posts, alternating between painting herself as the victim of a sudden cruel breakup and declaring her undying love for me. The most surprising development came 3 weeks after our separation. I was working late when the office receptionist called to say I had a visitor. I walked into the lobby to find Patricia, Sophia's mother, standing stiffly by the entrance. For a moment I considered turning around, but curiosity won out. "May I have 5 minutes of your time, Harvey?" she asked, her usual imperious tone muted. We sat in the small conference room, an uncomfortable silence stretching between us. Finally she spoke. "I owe you an apology," she said, each word seemingly difficult for her. "What I said at dinner was cruel and unfair. The truth is, Sophia had been telling us for months that you were going nowhere in your career, that you lacked ambition and drive. She portrayed you very differently than the man I now realize you are." Her admission stunned me. Patricia continued explaining that after our breakup she had spoken with William about my career. He had done some research and discovered I was actually highly regarded in my field recently, part of an award-winning project, and on track for significant advancement. Everything I had tried to tell them at dinner, but had been dismissed. "I do not expect your forgiveness," she said, "and I cannot speak for my daughter's behavior. But I wanted you to know that I regret my role in the end of your relationship." I thanked her for coming, but made it clear that, while I appreciated her apology, it changed nothing between Sophia and me. As she left, she paused at the door. "For what it is worth, Harvey, any parent would be fortunate to have you as a son-in-law. I was wrong about what makes a man husband material." Her words provided an unexpected sense of closure. But Sophia was not ready to let go. Her attempts grew increasingly desperate. She showed up at my basketball games. She sent handwritten letters detailing how much she had changed in just a few weeks. The final straw came when she appeared at my office again, this time with an engagement ring in hand, creating a scene in front of my colleagues by proposing to me. I took her aside to a private area and finally laid everything bare. I told her that her betrayal had revealed fundamental truths about our relationship that could not be undone. That I had been willing to build a life with someone who did not respect me. That nothing she could say or do now would rebuild the trust that had been irrevocably broken. "Is this really about that one comment at dinner?" she asked, tears streaming down her face. "No," I replied gently. "It is about all the comments. All the times you diminished me, or compared me to others. All the times you chose your mother's approval over my feelings. All the times you connected with your ex behind my back. That dinner just finally opened my eyes to what had been happening all along." As harsh as it sounds, I thanked her. because that dinner, as painful as it was, had forced me to recognize my own worth. To understand that love without respect is not really love at all. I wished her happiness, and walked away this time for good. In the months that followed, I rebuilt my life piece by piece. I found a smaller apartment that was truly mine. I reconnected with friends I had neglected. I poured energy into my career and received the promotion I had mentioned at that fateful dinner. Through therapy, I processed the relationship and recognized patterns I never wanted to repeat. I learned to identify red flags earlier and to value myself enough to address them. I understood that sacrifice in a relationship should be mutual, not one-sided. When I finally felt ready to date again, I approached it differently. I was more authentic, more willing to state my needs and boundaries. I met Amanda, a kindergarten teacher, who appreciated my engineering mind and laughed genuinely at my terrible jokes. Our relationship developed slowly, built on a foundation of mutual respect that I now knew was non-negotiable. A year after the breakup, I ran into Sophia at a coffee shop. She was with a man wearing surgical scrubs. Alex, I presumed. She looked momentarily flustered, but then approached my table. "Harvey," she said, her voice carrying a new maturity. "I just wanted to say that I am truly sorry for how I treated you. You deserved better." For the first time, her apology seemed sincere rather than manipulative. I wished them both well, and was surprised to find I meant it. As they walked away, I realized I felt nothing but a distant compassion for the woman who had once been the center of my world. That encounter crystallized how far I had come. The pain that once felt unbearable had transformed into wisdom. The betrayal that had broken my heart had ultimately led me to a truer understanding of myself. I realized that being husband material is not about income brackets or status symbols. It is about integrity, respect, and the courage to stand up for your worth. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from those who cannot see your value. Life continues to unfold in unexpected ways. Each relationship, even the painful ones, offers lessons that shape us. My journey taught me that self-respect must precede love for another, that boundaries are acts of self-care, and that the right person will never make you feel like you are not enough. Has my story resonated with you? Have you ever had to make the difficult choice between staying in a comfortable but diminishing relationship or stepping into the unknown to honor your worth? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story helped you reflect on your own relationships, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories of personal growth through difficult times. Remember, sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the courage to always know your worth.